Salutations!
Welcome to the Film Mages Podcast, where the popcorn is our ammunition, the couch is our foxhole, and the cinema is our place of worship.
Now let me see your war face! Ah!
And then I said, Mick, we're not doing big, juicy tentacle guys as our big topic. That's only going to serve you.
That is a first. That is always the topic, and then at the last second we pivot. It's dumb.
I
It's
know.
always
Zach,
your topic.
You're always telling Mick no, and yet The Handmaiden is one of my favorite movies. So, I mean, who's more of a tentacle guy, Mick or me?
You should see my search history, Alexis. Exhibit A.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Film Majors. I'm Zach.
I am Mick.
I'm Alexis.
Who does like tentacles more? Because I feel like we all like tentacles in different contexts.
feel like
Although,
as the
to be
resident-
fair, Alexis's name is now Knob Goblinless Cornflexness. I feel like that's a tentacle person.
I'm the resident weeb, so I feel like that
That's
automatically defaults me to being the tentacle person. And
Okay, but-
when we had the topic of movies that are made for you, I said very mistakenly on the internet forever that The Handmaiden was made for me.
Yeah, you said
Okay.
it again this episode.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
move
already
on.
there. It's fine.
Glad you've reminded everyone of it. And two, I'm a Verbinski boy. I'm Gore Verbinski is my dude.
Oh, that's true,
And
eel business.
You'd be hard pressed to find a blockbuster filmmaker who loves tentacles more than Gore Verbinski.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know
Well,
why I'm fighting for
Whoa.
myself in this.
Who grew up watching religiously SpongeBob? Are there more tentacles in any other medium than SpongeBob? I asked you that.
jellyfish.
Not,
Oh boy.
no,
Why
because
are-
of Squidward. Because of Squidward.
doing
all
this?
this.
I love his
Because-
interpretive dance. That episode's so good.
God, when I remember the first time I saw his interpretive dance, I just went, what is going on?
You son of a bitch! You son of a bitch!
He did it.
You knew
He's
I was
done it
trying to
again.
do it. You knew I was trying to do it. Oh, you piece of shit.
Wow.
God damn it.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, so Mick, you're in North Carolina. What's going on over there? You seen any flicks? Why are you lighting yourself on fire?
That was an accident. I didn't do that on purpose.
You turned a lighter on next to your hand.
Oh. Is that what we're
How's
doing
that
now,
an
guys?
accident?
I just didn't know. I didn't know that would happen.
Oh my god.
How is North Carolina? It's fine. It's good. Wilmington is a lovely city. They take spooky season quite seriously here.
Excellent.
There's lots of decorations, lots of bars that are themed. They have a vampire-themed drag show called Dragula, which is pretty fun.
There's a TV show called Dragula.
Oh, fucking Dragula, you little
right.
sexy little
I was
thing.
literally listening to Rob
Stop.
Zombie's Dragula yesterday.
I love Rob Zombie's Dragula. That's
What
a
a
good
vibe.
song. That is a good song to get pounded to. But yeah,
Crazy
Wilmington
how
is
we've
fun.
arrived at 3 different Dragulas.
There's just so much Dragula to go around.
I feel like Rob Zombie Dragula is like very relative to what we're discussing.
Tentacles?
Horror?
Yes.
Sure. I mean, Dragula is a horror-based drag TV show.
Well, Rob Zombie does semi-horror movies, so...
There
Living
we go.
Dead Girl. That's a good one. I like that one. He has a whole album called Songs to Strip To. It's really cool.
Wow.
But I didn't mention it on the last episode, but fans, I am living the dream, more or less. I get to work on a boat movie right now.
Make it-
and that's
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot of fun.
mix in it to win
I'm
it.
working on a boat movie.
Like,
It
I'm
happens.
surprised you haven't been fucking ejected from that movie.
Yeah, dude. I'll tell you what. The other day we were out on the open waters,
Oh my god.
and I was on the B camera boat, and I got to tell the captain of my boat that we need to swing around to the starboard side under the rigging. And like as I said that, I realized that I could die a happy man.
I was like,
I thought you were going to say you realized that all the blood had rushed to your cock.
wow.
Why do you think I could die a happy man?
Wow.
Well, I'm happy that you're getting to live the dream, Mick.
Thank
Have
you.
you seen any films?
That's the problem with living the dream is that you don't have a lot of time. So no. So y'all take it away.
That's true. That's true. Alexis, you seen some films?
I have seen some films, but before we do that, I just want to say my family came to see my show today, and they got seated like right at the front of the dinner theater, so like my nephew was like literally like almost on the stage a little bit, and seeing him have the cutest little huge like shit-eating grin while we were doing bows, I literally felt like the coolest person. I almost started crying.
She's a star. She's a goddamn star.
Such a fucking sap. Oh my god. But I have seen quite a lot of movies.
What you been fucking watching?
Lot, but I guess I'm trying to be very supportive and watch movies that are on your list. But I also don't have a lot of time, so I've only gotten 2, I think.
What you watch?
I watched Old, and I gotta say, I liked it. I don't know.
Yeah!
I was a fan. I mean, like, there was... It feels like the ending's a little half-baked, but, I mean, in general, like, I kind of enjoyed, you know, the journey of it.
How did you like the M. Night cameo in that movie?
I love the M. Night cameo. I love every cameo he's ever done in his movies. I don't know. That
is my absolute favorite M. Night cameo. He literally says, "Let me drive the characters to the movie."
Oh, yes.
It fucking rules.
Let's see here. What else did I see? Oh, Carrie. I watched Carrie.
Fuck yeah.
That movie is so good. It's such a fucking banger. Like,
Yep.
I hate the opening. I hate how horny De Palma is. Like, I would just like for the man to stop, because every single time he opens a movie, I always know, like, immediately, like, that it's a De Palma, like a horny De Palma film. You know, like he just has like a fucking paintbrush and it's like swirly, swirly, swirl, horny, horny, horny.
Brian,
you know?
Brian, you have to jack off before you go to work. Brian.
Literally. Oh my god. But other than that, like, the movies pretty much has no faults. I think that every one of those fucking bitches deserve their death in the end. That girl with the cap, it's on sight. It is on sight. Norma, your days were numbered before. Yeah, anyways, fuck that bitch. I hate all of them. Yeah, let me think here. Oh, I watched The Passenger with our boy Kyle Gallner.
Might come up later.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. If they didn't want me to find this really greasy psychopath hot, they shouldn't have put him in a cozy mustard cardigan. That is my note. Don't do that if you don't want me to kind of like him.
People go fucking crazy for cozy outerwear. I feel like that's kind of slept on as, like,
I don't think it is.
Maybe the most sexy article of clothing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, like, people are always thinking
it.
of, like, you know, like, cutout shirts like Elvis in that one scene or something, but I think...
God, we didn't even make it 10 minutes.
My bad. But, I don't know. I don't know if it's just, like, the grandpa look just does, like, wonders for me, or just more that
Alexis,
I just like it when
gay.
somebody else is soft. What?
It's because you're gay. It looks good on lesbians. That's that whole look totally works for that demographic, which is why it's hot.
Oh, okay. This is an excellent point. Pretty much any man that has ever taken, like, a leaf out of the book of lesbians in the fashion sense is, in fact, 10 times hotter in my eyes, just automatically. Other than that, I did also watch Stir of Echoes with Kevin Bacon.
Okay.
I saw
was
that a
that?
couple times when I was a kid, and I always remember being like kind of freaked out by it. And I think it's a really underrated horror movie. I think that like it's not like the best horror movie, and I understand why it's not like a cult classic like so many of those like late 90s movies kind of became. I think Kevin Bacon gives like a really good performance in it. You know me, I love a good ghost story, something that's kind of like a spirit lingering around the house with unfinished business. I think that it really, because it takes place in Chicago, and I think that you really like feel the setting of like where they are. The neighborhood feels really lived in.
I love a Chicago movie.
Me too.
Yeah. And I don't know. I love Kevin Bacon. Honestly, I'm not really attracted to Kevin Bacon. Like, I think that it was just Footloose was too early for me. Like, I didn't really get that. Like, that was my sister's era. So, like, I never really found Kevin Bacon hot. Also, he was the voice of Balto, and Balto's just a good boy. And, like, I never was, like, you know, attracted to him in that way.
Yes, you
I don't
were.
believe you. I don't
Why are
believe
you blushing,
Liar,
Alexis?
liar, liar.
Why is your nose getting big?
Cap.
Kevin Bacon in this movie, he has a fucking pickaxe at this one point, and he's like shirtless, and I was like, do I find Kevin Bacon attractive? I think the thing is that after I saw the movie Hollow Man, I was like, this man will never be attractive to me ever again.
Yeah, no, that is the ultimate ick. That is the ultimate ick.
Oh
Awful.
man, Paul
You know-
Verhoeven, you're
you know
fucking
when-
wild for that one.
When I was younger, I found Kevin Bacon attractive in Tremors. He had
I've never
this.
seen it.
He has this like weird hick, like rodeo vibe where I'm like, I know we're on opposite ends of the political spectrum, but you've got it going on.
Tremors has never been on one of my Spooktober lists.
Which is
Wow.
insane. I hope we cover that movie eventually because that has like some of the
I'm-
best practical effects.
Listen, I'm glad it hasn't, because like the first year I burned through a lot of my like top shelf horror movies and a lot
Yeah.
of classics. So it's nice to have a few in the back
We
pocket.
could do like a Spooktober that's just worm business.
I mean, I could find a lot of movies that I like that involve worm business.
Regret giving a compromise week the first year that we did the podcast, because I think I did, what was it, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy for compromise week during Period Piece Palooza, and I would take it back. I would take it back in a heartbeat. There's like 100 other movies I would have put in that slot now.
I did a compromise week too my first year, but I don't regret covering Death Becomes Her because we've covered 3 Zemeckis movies. I'm glad we've covered at least one that's fucking good.
I think that makes me the most communist comrade out of all 3 of us because this past boat month I did 2 compromise picks. Although to be fair, I had a 5-episode month, but still.
What were your compromise picks?
Ghost Ship and
Muppets.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't
It's
know. Is it a
because I
compromise
love-
if it was more so that you chose it because you knew we would love it?
Yeah, that's a compromise. That's me kicking. That's me
but
throwing
you
you a
love
bone.
those movies. All right, I'm gonna get into what I've watched. Obviously, I've been watching my Spooktober list, but I did find time to watch 2 movies I had not seen before. One of which was Robert Rodriguez's From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh, that's a fun
Hey.
film.
Cracked that one open. That
Toe
movie
business.
is. Oh boy,
Wasn't that
I
great?
mean,
He's not beating
Hey
those
guys,
allegations.
how's it going? It's me, Quentin Tarantino,
He's-
and let me just say,
he
I
is
loved
never-
working on From
he is
Dusk Till
never
Dawn.
going to beat those
honestly,
allegations.
It's an homage to John Carpenter, and it's an homage to how much I fucking love the films of stuffing the toes into.
Quentin, I'm gonna need you to go.
Well, no, okay, guys. So listen, I'm just really happy that I got to come and talk about From Dusk Till Dawn. Get out of here!
Being a man means you can hire yourself to put a famous woman's toe in your mouth. That's
Oh, my
that's
God.
what it is.
Yeah, also, it's Salma Hayek. Out of all of the things on her body that you want to put in your mouth, he picks the toe. And you know what? I applaud him
Of
for
course he
it.
did. I mean, listen, we can't
He
have
has
him
a
speak on it
hierarchy of
anymore.
needs that I don't understand, but everybody else does.
Yeah, I think you're out. You're the odd man out here, Alexis.
Yes. I don't want
liked-
anyone's toes in my mouth.
I'm not
Yeah,
a big
sorry
toe
about
guy.
that one time, Alexis. That was an
Quentin
accident.
has said his piece. Ultimately, like the movie, it's not like incredible, but like, you know, it's a lot of fun. It's stupid and it's fun. Similar to The Faculty, which was on my list for this month.
I would
Like
put
just dumb fun.
I would put
I
From
wanna watch
Dusk
The
Till Dawn
Faculty.
in that list of movies that I always want to rewatch, and then is never as good as I hope it is. Like it's
No,
fine, but it's not. It's not
solid.
like.
It's decent.
But hey, it's a vampire movie. Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Salma Hayek dances with a snake.
She sure does. I kind of wish obviously it's never going to happen, but I kind of wish I had not known it was a vampire movie going in, because I think that was probably like an insanely fun thing to discover in 1998. Stop lighting yourself on fire.
So
Why
keep
are you
going. Keep
doing
going.
it?
Ignore me. It's fine.
Oh my God, I don't like that at all. Anyways, but From Dusk Till Dawn features a cameo from makeup effects legend Tom Savini, who also makes a cameo. Mick? Why are you popping your fucking A? Why are you doing this? I need you to stop doing what you're doing. You're breaking my concentration, and
You were
I
saying?
don't like it. I don't want to talk about it now. I don't want to watch you squeeze your pores on camera. Just because the audience can't see it doesn't mean no one's going to call you out on it.
I feel
don't
as if
like
they
it.
didn't want to know that.
I didn't
Yeah,
want to
Zach.
know it either, but I have to, so now they do too. Don't blame me. You're squeezing them.
How dare you, Zach?
You're like pointing to
God.
the child who's like pooped in the corner in their diaper.
He is almost 30 years old.
I did, by the way, because before I would just do it anywhere, but then I found out in a zoo they do it in the corner, which makes sense. So we're all learning. We're
are you learning, Zach?
all becoming better.
Zach?
Zach, you were talking about movies, buddy. Come on, this is a movie podcast. This isn't the Forgetful Confusion podcast.
I'm not forgetting, but I wish I could. I watched Terrifier 3 in theaters.
Oh, how was that?
I liked it significantly more than the previous two Terrifier movies, which I kind of hated. I kind of found those first two movies to be repugnant and stupid.
Oh.
The second movie's way too long. Those first two movies, I feel like both kind of fucking hate women in a way that, like, really comes through and is gross. Like, obviously, people experience horrific violence in horror movies, often extreme, gory violence, and Terrifier's whole bit is doing extreme gore. And those first two movies just really felt like they were going out of their way to target women and also depict women in kind of a uncharitable way, so that you don't really feel bad when they die, which I thought kind of sucked. But this movie, I think, kind of remedied some of that. I think we had generally more fleshed out women. Mick, what the fuck are you doing?
Zach, what are you talking about?
I'm not gonna talk about it. If you're just
Generally
gonna fucking
fleshed
do your
out
shit.
women. It's great.
Oh my God, I'm done. I like Terrifier 3. Fuck you. I'm done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Mick's being an asshole.
I'm the asshole? I'm being an asshole.
Picking
I
your
did like
nose
my
visibly.
nose up
Yeah,
turn.
Alexis started the nose bit, okay?
I don't care who started it.
Dad.
Jesus. Zach, you were talking
Children.
about women.
Ugh.
Wait, Alexis, you saw the new robot movie, didn't you?
We already talked about that.
Oh, yeah, but that was just, I recorded that in my letterbox late. So it looks like I just watched that, but I watched that like weeks ago. We talked about that last time.
We did.
Was that the episode that I wasn't on?
Maybe. Oh, I think it was actually.
Yeah, I think it was. Which, by the way, Alexis, my dad went and saw that on your recommendation.
Oh, what did Mr. Harris think?
He liked it.
Good.
He also wanted to shout out the Kathy Bates James Caan ankle break as an upsetting injury, which I am kind of kicking myself for not mentioning because that one's really fucking bad.
You know, we play croquet at the beginning of Act 2. Well, it's kind of like a dream sequence, and like I'm like one of the ladies like playing croquet, right? Like silently. And every time I pick up like the croquet mallet, I always think of not Misery, but this one horror manga that I read where somebody like the spirit literally like takes a mallet and fucking like kicks somebody's like kneecap out and then fucking spins their head around by hitting them with a mallet. I've yet to see that in a movie, you know? So somebody needs to get on the horror genre and do that. Just fucking taking someone's kneecap out with a mallet or like totally spinning their head around with a mallet. That's just seems like an untapped market for me.
I mean, I do feel like Damien Leone, who makes the Terrifier movies, would be the dude to talk to about that.
Yeah, but that's not a movie I'm going to watch.
No, that's fine.
Somebody else has to do it. Somebody that I'm going to watch.
Did you guys watch the music video that I put in the group chat?
No, I have not yet.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, the Terrifier one that you put in there.
Yeah. I AD'd their Ice Nine Kills music video that apparently is playing as an end credit sequence in some screenings of Terrifier 3. And speaking of not beating allegations, I have not seen any of the Terrifier movies, but having worked on the music video, yeah, I don't think women is the favorite gender.
This is so interesting because I'm continually debating the misogyny of the first two Terrifier movies with one of my female coworkers who fucking loves them.
You know what's so funny is I've actually...
Fun.
There's been a trend on TikTok of people like running away from things, right? And it's like POV. No, somebody did one that was like POV, you're running from Art the Clown, but then you realize it's Art the Clown, and then somebody like mid-run just stops and like turns and looks back and just like starts smiling and then just starts to like bend over. And I was like, I don't understand why you would like Art the Clown. But
Art would love
apparently
that.
it greases some people's knobs for sure.
I guess. Yeah, that's a crazy one to be horny for because like in terms of brutal violence, pretty hard to beat. But yeah, I will say, speaking of Art the Clown, that is the last thing I will say about Terrifier 3 is that the previous two movies, I fully did not get Art the Clown as like kind of a new slasher icon. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, he's just like a scary clown. But like, I've kind of seen that before. He's not really bringing any personality. This latest movie, genuinely funny performance. I have to hand it to them doing good, like, silent comedy shit.
Well, that's the thing. The guy who plays Art, like, when I met him, like, all we could talk about was, like, silent movie, like, slapstick comedy. Like, that's something that he just aspires to do. And I found out from the producer that a constant problem with the previous Terrifier films and this last one, the shooting of them, is that actor is constantly trying to make it funnier. And the director and the producers are constantly having to reel it back going, dude, you're Art the Clown. You need to just give us a mean take. Give us an angry take. And then that's the one they usually use. But most of the time, he's just trying to be funny.
I think he won that fight on this movie because he's very funny at it.
He used to be a school teacher.
Did he really?
He was like a kindergarten teacher or a first grade teacher or something like that. I forget.
Oh my God.
Wild.
Yeah.
Can you fucking imagine?
Yeah.
Art the
That's
Clown, your
crazy.
teacher?
I mean, I feel like you two. Well, you've been on a Terrifier set, Mick, so you kind of get what they're getting up to. It's so fucking crazy. Yeah, well, it's a moderate recommendation from me for Terrifier 3 because, like, didn't think it was great, still too long. They're putting a lot of very stupid lore into it, and the dialogue still kind of sucks shit. But I found it less repellent, and I really liked Art the Clown in this one. So
Nice.
if you're a spooky boy, go see it. Why not?
Hell yeah.
Well, do we have anything else?
No.
No,
And with that, let's hop out
Let's
of
talk about what's going
on.
on. Fuck you. God. I got
I
swooped.
put it's
that was
it's
a
the great.
relatively short what's going on. Sometimes we're pushing 30 by the time we get out of there. And even with all the bullshit we did on that, we were in 25 minutes. Wow, we're good. We're good.
You know, I would say I'm proud of us, but
You're not.
I'm not
No,
gonna.
because
No.
that is an indicting statement on this show. Ever saying that we're proud of what we're doing.
Well, I think
Yeah.
he's certainly not proud of you sticking your finger up your nose.
I didn't like any of that.
But I didn't eat it this time.
I'm so proud.
You're not getting a compliment for that. Oh my god. Stop dabbing. All right. We are on to our penultimate big topic of spooky season. And we're going to be talking about some of our favorite Scream Kings this episode. This is something that our previous guest made me think about, because we have many a Scream Queen, many an iconic final girl. Jamie Lee Curtis springs to mind, being in Halloween, Terror Train,
Neve Campbell.
Prom Night. Neve Campbell. But Scream Kings are somewhat rarer. So who are some of our favorite Scream Kings? Stop doing Jack Nicholson face at me.
I want to start with, I think, one of the all-time great Scream Kings, Vincent Price.
Yes.
Oh, good one.
Like, I would even argue that there are going to be after my pick, Alexis and Zach and myself will say others that are great, but I would say that it would be hard to argue that any one of them matches Vincent Price in the sense that is just a man who off camera just exudes the macabre. Like he is a personified spooky folktale.
Here's the thing, though. He's usually the bad guy in those movies. I would argue that, but often.
Not always.
I feel like we most associate him with being the bad guy in those movies. I think that a Scream King should exude more of a you're playing victims or final girls type persona, which is why I would say that the ultimate Scream King is Bruce Campbell. I think that it's hard to argue, is kind of the most iconic Scream King, being in all three of the original Evil Dead movies. He's
Bubba Hotep.
In Bubba Hotep, he's the final guy in Maniac Cop. He has kind of been just a mainstay protagonist of horror movies for more than 40 years. So Bruce Campbell would be the big one that I would mention.
I counter though with the idea that you have to be in order to be a Scream King, not to be one, but that the best ones are not the purveyor of evil and rather the combatant of it. Because I think some of my what I think of favorite Scream Queens, Scream Kings, half the time they're the bad guy. But they're
But I
just
feel
they're in
like
horror
If
movies
Matthew
so
Lillard
much.
could be a Scream King, even though he is technically the killer in Scream.
I
But he
agree.
has-
Spoilers.
But he has, like, you know, enough of that movie where, like, you don't really, you know, if you've never seen it before, you know, you don't know. And he even has, like, you know, like where he gets stabbed. I don't know. I just think, and then you also have him in 13 Ghosts, you know, plugging 13 Ghosts one more time.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
But my pick would be Justin Long, for sure.
Definitely.
Good one. Solid
Yeah.
one.
'Cause, I
Recently
mean-
discussed.
I think that the first time I really ever saw Justin Long in a movie was when I saw Jeepers Creepers as a kid. And I remember
I
just
always
being like
forget about that
really,
one.
really freaked out by that one because at the very end of the movie, you have like the song Jeepers Creepers playing in the background, and then you can see that like he's been like tunneled through, like you just see through his eyes, and it's just the creature behind like his skin. But then of course you also have Tusk, which is so upsetting. I am forever changed for the worse after having seen Tusk.
It's like
I
if
did
we
not know what I was
I
getting
agree.
into.
if we didn't have the Johnny Depp portion of Tusk, Tusk would be such an all-timer horror movie for me. All of the Justin Long stuff in that movie I fucking love.
Speaking of
pick.
Justin Long, by the way, he's in a new horror film called Spin the Bottle, and I have to give a shout out that that our previous guest and my lovely partner Sam Tansey was the key makeup artist. She was the head makeup artist on that movie. Did a bunch of cool demon effects, and apparently, the new horror movie Spin the Bottle with Justin Long.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, I haven't seen it yet. They painted over all of her makeup with VFX. So fuck
Ah,
them.
fuck. God damn it. They fucking 2011 thinged her?
Yeah, no, they did.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's really fucking dumb.
man.
So actually, don't watch that fucking
I'm gonna,
movie.
yeah, I'm gonna fucking send her my
Boycott it.
condolences. That's fucked up.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one. I've got
All
one.
right, who you got?
I am going to hit us all with. Oh, there's so many good ones, but
I've made my own list.
You know what? I'm gonna say Robert Englund.
He's a monster.
He is a screen. He appears
not
in
a
so
screen-
many other horror
Okay,
movies, and you point at him and go, "That's exciting."
No, but he's not a
I would
Scream
say
King. He is like
Scream
listen,
Kings.
dude,
Their brand is horror.
I disagree because I feel like a Scream King is the inverse of a Scream Queen. And how many Scream Queens play the villain with frequency? Like none.
Well, I just don't know if I agree with that definition. That's all.
Well,
to
I-
me, a scream queen is like someone that just is a woman that appears in a lot of horror movies.
Okay,
Like,
but
that's kinda like her brand.
they usually play the victim.
Well, that's not. I wouldn't say that's so much a trait of being a scream queen. That's maybe because female characters should play the villain more. You
But
know.
I think,
That'd
but
be
it's
kinda
not.
cool.
It's not horror queen. It's Scream Queen. You're appearing on screen, screaming. Like I think you
Okay.
kind of have to be a victim
What
to be
about
a Scream
Bruce
King.
Abbott?
Oh, Shelley Duvall.
Shelley Duvall, that's a woman. You got to be a guy to be a Scream King.
I don't know why you were just talking so much about them screaming, and I was like, "Oh, she's got a great scream." Totally forgot what we were talking about.
Sure does. Not the topic. Mick, who's Bruce Abbott?
Wait.
He
What
was
about-
Oh, no, hold on. I meant Jeffrey Combs. Jeffrey Combs. That is a Scream King.
There. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll give you Jeffrey Combs, one of the best.
Because he's not always.
He's not
always the
on
good
my
guy.
list.
He's a bad
Okay,
guy.
but he's. I wouldn't say he's the primary antagonist of any of the horror movies I've seen him in. He's not really the antagonist of Reanimator. He's the
Well,
catalyst
yeah,
for
but
the
he's
action.
pretty fucking close.
Yeah, but he's not the antagonist. That's oh my god, I'm forgetting his name. He's incredible though. The professor who is decapitated.
Yeah.
He's
That
not the
that makes a meal
antagonist.
out of that girl.
Is he in From Beyond?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he's not the antagonist in that. He's not the antagonist in Castle Freak. He's kind of a secondary antagonist in The Frighteners, but he's not like a bad guy. I would say Jeffrey Combs is a great fucking pick, but I think that totally adheres to the notion of someone who's not necessarily playing the monster. Like I wouldn't consider Bela Lugosi or like Lon Chaney a Scream King because they're playing the monster.
Huh.
What about Rick Moranis because he was in Little Shop of Horrors?
Okay, has he been in more? You know, if you count, I feel like you got to be in more than one, and he was in both Ghostbusters movies. So I'll say tenuous.
He's teetering on the edge there.
He's maybe an honorable mention.
I'll throw.
To be honest, I can't even think of any more.
I can think of one who you mentioned earlier. He's been putting in work to become a modern Scream King, and that is Mr. Kyle Gallner, who has quietly been in so many horror movies. He's in Smile. He's in Smile 2, which will be out by the time of this release. He's in Strange Darling. He's in Jennifer's Body. He's in Red Eye. He's in the 2022 Scream 5.
Who does he play in Red Eye?
I don't remember. He's a kid.
I was like, that movie is so long ago.
Yeah, he would be a kid. But he's in the 2010, tenuous movie, but Nightmare on Elm Street remake. And haven't seen The Passenger, but is listed as a horror film.
Question. Why can't a Scream King be the inducer of screams? Right?
Because that's not what a Scream Queen is.
Yeah, but we're not talking about Scream Queens. We're talking about Scream Kings.
Well, a Scream King is the inverse of a Scream Queen.
I would say that the inverse of a Scream Queen could be the person that is the causer of screams.
Mick?
Why do I feel like I'm on a Seinfeld episode right now?
Because that's always how it feels in this fucking apartment with you. I also want to shout out David Arquette, who is in 5 Scream movies, Ravenous and Bone Tomahawk. Adam Brody, who's in Jennifer's Body, Scream 4, Ready or Not, and the remake of The Ring.
Okay, so if I'm going to count Matthew Lillard as a Scream King, I also want to count Freddie Prinze Jr. as a Scream King because he was in I Know What You Did Last Summer, but he's also in Scooby-Doo and Scooby-Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, and I think that should make it count.
I was obsessed with Monsters Unleashed when I was a kid. Holy shit.
I had such a fat crush on Seth Green growing up. Like, I was like, he's so cool. He made Robot Chicken. He's in Scooby-Doo. he's in Austin Powers.
That is the craziest shit I've ever heard you say, Alexis. I just thought he was so
cool for, like, making Robot Chicken. I used to love Robot Chicken.
That explains so much about you.
Yeah, that's the most revealing thing you've ever said on this podcast.
Wow. Listeners, you were having a live mind blow moment for me. Oh my God.
Holy shit, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. You know who else I want to shout out is Patrick Wilson.
Yes. Good. I was going to mention him. Conjuring, Insidious, Aquaman. It's all horrifying movies.
Okay, Aquaman, certified banger.
Horrifying.
I will not hear words against it.
Terrifying.
Prometheus, he has a small part in. He is also, he plays Nomi Rapace's father in like some video clips, which is, tenuous. You barely see him.
Her father or her daddy?
Papa?
He's also in Hard Candy with Elliot Page.
Yes.
Hard Candy?
No, but it's horrific.
Hard Candy was on one of my spooky lists, I believe in 2022. It's,
Oh, yes, I remember that.
I've never seen it.
Good movie. You should check it out.
Mick, you should. That, like, changed the trajectory of probably my life when I watched Hard Candy.
Why is Seth Green in it?
That's so fucked up.
You know, here's the thing. I feel like I just, like, serve you guys, like, a buffet tray of just, like, shit for you to make fun of me on.
You're very honest. You're very
Yes.
honest, and that's what we love about
We
you.
are the honesty majors.
I don't know about that.
God. Okay, last shout out that I have is Dylan Minnette, who another kind of modern Scream King, was in Scream 2022. He's in Don't Breathe, and he was in the Matt Reeves American remake of Let the Right One In. It was called Let Me In. And he's in Goosebumps.
Also, I'm going to my last shout out. I know you're going to fundamentally reject Zach, but I fundamentally reject how you define a Scream King. Is Bill Skarsgård?
You're allowed to be wrong. He's on my list, and I thought about it, but no.
Bill Skarsgård is a modern Scream King.
He's a modern horror
barbarian.
icon.
He's going to be in Nosferatu.
He's
Yeah,
playing
he should count
Nosferatu.
because I think he's really hot.
No, that's not the criteria.
Actually, Bill Skarsgård does have real Seth Green energy. That's hot.
Oh my god.
Not me racking my brain trying to figure out if he does actually have Seth Green energy, but he does.
No,
because
I know.
Seth
You
Green,
quickly
Seth Green
analyze
is
that.
a short king, okay, and Bill Skarsgård is 10 feet tall, okay. This automatically puts them on different sides of the same coin that I find.
I feel like they are both equally likely to be living in your walls.
Bill Skarsgård isn't living in the walls in
No, but
the
he
movie
would,
where there
though.
are people in the walls.
Have you seen The Crow? No, I have. And he has living in your walls energy. Seth Green, he probably lives in walls. Wait, I have a question.
What?
Why are we talking about Scream Kings?
Well, Mick, I'm glad you asked. Because
Is this a guy that only plays the victims in horror movies? I think not.
But he is a guy who has predominantly, or at least many times, played someone who is not the primary perpetrator of horror. And that is Mr. Sam Neill. Cute.
Sam Neill!
Yes. Sam Neill plays...
Our favorite Kiwi.
He plays a victim in the previously covered Dead Calm. He plays kind of
You're
a
welcome.
twisted guy, but not the primary purveyor of horror in Possession. He does play...
I mean, I would say
I
a
wouldn't
lot
s-
of the horror is him just being a fucked up guy in that movie.
I mean, listen, everybody's pretty fucked up in that movie, but I wouldn't say
I don't
that
think the
he
squid
is
creature is the
monster in
primary
that film.
purveyor.
It's pretty fucked up.
What about Event Horizon, dude? Event Horizon, that whole thing is him.
My point is that he has played many a victim in a horror movie, including in today's film, John Carpenter's 1994 horror film, In the Mouth of Madness. Here is the description. When horror novelist Sutter Kane, Jurgen Prochnow, goes missing, insurance investigator John Trent, Sam Neill, scrutinizes the claim made by his publisher, Jackson Harglow, Charlton Heston, and endeavors to retrieve a yet-to-be-released manuscript and ascertain the writer's whereabouts. Accompanied by the novelist's editor, Linda Stiles, Julie Carmen, and disturbed by nightmares from reading Kane's other novels, Trent makes an eerie nightmare trek to a supernatural town in New Hampshire. Yeah, I think Google watched at least the first, 30. All right. Mick, Alexis? What's your relationship?
Never seen it before.
You'd never seen it before? What you think, Alexis?
I thought it was okay, to be honest. I was like, oh, so
We're no longer in
going-
New York, quite quickly.
Yeah, no. I was
I'm
like,
going Australian.
Stop it.
yeah, I'm
Actually,
like,
you
I was
should
just,
go-
I was
you should
just,
go New-
I was just sliding
New
into something
Zealand.
more comfortable. Get it?
Nice.
So I liked it. I think it was just kind of giving I was like, oh, it's like Stephen King meets Twilight Zone kind of, but it's directed by John Carpenter. So there's a lot of fingers in different holes, I think. Nick just immediately, fingers in holes, you say.
Didn't like Mick getting that close to the camera.
Yeah. Mick?
Huh?
What did you think of the fucking movie, Mick?
In the Mouth of Madness. I believe I don't have a long history with this movie. I think I initially watched it off of Zach's recommendation. Again, I know I'm going to sound like a fucking alcoholic when I say this, but I think the first time I watched it, I was pretty inebriated, so I don't remember a lot of it. Then I remember liking enough of it where I bought it on Blu-ray. I tried watching it again, pretty inebriated, don't remember a lot of it. Just remember thinking like, oh, okay, yeah, like, you know, it's a solid John Carpenter movie. Not my favorite, you know, but yeah, it's fine. It's good. Sam Neill. What can I hate about it? But this time, watched it sober, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and I have to say, my stance still remains. This is a good movie. I think the first 2/3 are quite good. I think the last third, it doesn't really impact me the way I want it to. But yeah,
interesting.
It's a solid spooky season film.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. So I think I also watched this movie for the first time in college and liked it quite a bit. And I still love this movie. This is probably not in my top 3 Carpenters, but it's probably in my top 5. I've seen most of his movies at this point, and I think that chronologically, as far as I have seen, haven't seen The Ward, this is the last great John Carpenter movie. I think that this has all of the things that I love from John Carpenter's horror / sci-fi works, which is great makeup effects, a fun horror sci-fi premise, and a like deeply pessimistic worldview. I think that for me, some of the first act I find, or at least found on this watch, dragged a little bit, but I love the ending of this movie, and maybe I'm just a sucker for the terror of realizing that you never were. I also quite enjoy last year's spooky season pick, The Empty Man. But I think that this hits the notion of cosmic horror really effectively, and like, well, it shouts out Stephen King. I think that the writer that this is much more indebted to is H.P. Lovecraft, right down to the title riffing on At the Mountains of Madness. And, you know, he's a difficult author to adapt because so much of his writing is about things that the human mind can't comprehend. And I think that John Carpenter...
The indescribable.
Yeah, I think that John Carpenter, while making a movie that, like, does have a sense of humor, captures that feeling better than a lot of directors have, particularly with the scene with the rip, which I think is very effective. So, I guess spoilers for In the Mouth of Madness. Yeah, John Trent is an insurance claims investigator, and he goes to track down this famous horror novelist who's gone missing with his latest book, In the Mouth of Madness. And he finds this guy in this town, Hobbs End, that's supposed to only exist in his novels, and eventually discovers that this guy has essentially... I'm still not totally sure if we're meant to gather that we are fully just living in a Sutter Kane book, or if Sutter Kane has been communing with eldritch beings on the other side and has been kind of warping the world to his point of view. But essentially, the discovery we make is that John Trent is an invention of Sutter Kane, and his reality is now Kane's reality. And that is, you know, I think a great, like, cosmic horror. Your existence is small in the face of this, like, massive, unknowable force. And I think the scene where Sutter Kane rips himself out of the world and we just get Trent looking through these ripped book pages into this big black void as we hear Kane's writing being read behind him. That to me is one of the most effective on-screen depictions of the idea of cosmic horror, because it's getting at that dread without fully showing the slippery things on the other side. And then when we do see them, we only see them for a second.
And I think that's the part that is a bit of a letdown to me, is when you do finally get to see the cosmic horror sort of manifested into actual slippery tentacle beings. It's not that I don't get to see them enough and I wish I could see more of them. It's that they don't really hit hard. They don't really wallop you. They kind of chase him down this tunnel, and they look kind of ridiculous. They look cool, but they look kind of ridiculous. And then that's it. And then they begin to take over the world behind closed doors, and it's all suggested. And that's the part, I think, for me, where up until that point that you're talking about, Zach, I'm pretty on board with this movie. And then at that point, when you actually see them, it seems almost anticlimactic to me a little bit. But something else to add to your description, in case you have not seen this movie, is all the while he is investigating the disappearance of Sutter Kane. People are beginning to go mad. There's like mass hysteria. The people that read his books. So there's sort of this suggestion that if you read the text, you yourself will begin to go mad. And he first starts to read them, and he keeps having this really terrifying visions of this cop that something is wrong with him, like the pupils separate and his face is all fucked up.
Such a fucking good makeup effect.
All of that is really effective. I mean, I'm quite on board with all of that. And one of my favorite shots, which seems very John Carpenter, and reminds me of Halloween, jumping back to the beginning, is when him and his boss or associate are having dinner or lunch at that diner, and you just see across the street Sutter Kane's, what we find out to be his manager,
his agent,
is just like his agent, excuse me, is just like walking across the street. Clearly something is fucking wrong with him, because he's got like these black eyes. He looks like he's breaking out in some sort of weird hives, and there's something fucked up about his eyes, and he's holding this fucking axe, and he's just walking at the camera, and our two characters are in the foreground inside the diner, not noticing this at all until he breaks the glass and jumps on the table and just asks him, "Do you read Sutter Kane?"
It's fucking so good.
And then shoots him. And it's all fucking fantastic. I mean, I really like all of that. The third act for me, I wish it was more. But I do agree that I have not seen as many John Carpenter movies as you, but this, I would probably agree this is probably his last good swing. This is his last really decent. He's really in control of what he's trying to do, and he pretty much succeeds with it. Because this is one of his three apocalypse trilogies. Yes, it's
the last of the Apocalypse trilogy. And
Prince of Darkness and The Thing are the other two.
Yeah.
Right. It's better than the Prince of Darkness. Let me just say that.
I like Prince of Darkness. It is better.
No, I do too. I like that movie in kind of an ironic sense. When someone's body and essence and their fluids get sucked out of them, and it's clearly the sound of John Carpenter hitting a bong.
We don't know it was him. We
effect.
don't know that it was him. It could have been one of his buddies.
He's never beating those allegations.
He's not, and he doesn't want to. I'm very impressed by John Carpenter as a filmmaker who can work with limited resources, because the last John Carpenter film we discussed several years ago now at this point was The Thing, and that was kind of the one time where he was given massive studio resources and he fucking knocked it out of the park. And then no one saw it, and he was never given those resources again.
And the studios were like, well, we'll not make that mistake again.
Oops, we made a masterpiece. Don't want to do that again. But like for me, the third act, this sort of slow or I guess like rapid deterioration of the world, I think seeing it in glimpses is really, really effective. I think the way he does it is very smart, particularly at the very end when the things go insane at the asylum and Trent walks out of his cell and there's just pages all over the hallways and all over the lawn of the asylum. And I feel like that's just, I find that imagery very creepy and the implication of what could have happened very effective. Like I can see the argument, honestly, of maybe not seeing the like slippery eldritch monsters. Because I think that all of the things, I like seeing them. I think they look great. But I think that all of the things that Carpenter does to like imply the world falling apart are like very effective and kind of chilling. Yeah, I think as you were talking about it just now, I think part of what's tough about this, and it's hard for me to critique. If you've noticed, I haven't like directly critiqued John Carpenter for how I feel about the ending because I myself don't know how else you would do it, really. I think it's kind of victim in my mind just to the virtue of it being a pretty contained story, right? A guy who, an insurance claims investigator, is taking this assistant of this publishing house that publishes these books out to this New Hampshire rural New England town to try to find this author. And in this town that supposedly shouldn't be there and doesn't exist, there are very strange things happening. And that's all pretty contained, and there is some very big cosmic suggestions that is fun to play with. But then I think that last act, it suddenly gets slingshotted into this international stakes, right? Like the world is at stake kind of thing. And I think where the Prince of, it's weird I'm going to say this, I think where the Prince of Darkness succeeds and the Thing succeeds is that is when those movies end. Is then you think about the ramifications as the end credits go. This, you get a little bit more time to kind of play around with seeing things deteriorate, but they can't, the only way they can do it is kind of through suggestion and interesting imagery, which I do agree, I think that's pretty creative, but he did what he could with what you can, because, I mean, how else do you fucking depict that sort of thing, you know?
I do love the way that it ends, though, with just Sam Neill in a theater laughing at the screen of literally him watching his own movie, his own story. There's like a lot that I liked about the movie. This is going to make you mad, Zach, but you know the person who's doing the bike riding
I know
on
exactly
the
what
road?
you're talking about, and I know what you're going to bring up. I've seen this movie a lot of times.
Okay, the makeup that they do for like the old, I don't know, crone kind of face.
Ooh, maybe I
type
don't
of thing,
know what you're going to bring up because I have something to tell you.
It looks just like the makeup that they do for Halloween Town when everybody gets like the life sucked out of them in the theater. And they look all haggard. That's exactly what it looks like. And as soon as I brought that up, I was like, Zach's going to lose his shit.
I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm in hell. Oh, my God. That's not what I thought you were going to mention about the bike rider.
What did you think I was going to say?
Do you know who plays the kid riding the bike once he's, like, out of the loop of Hobbs End?
No.
You mean at the very end?
Yeah, once he's, like, out with the
the one with the
You know who that
paper?
is?
Yeah.
Hayden
Who?
Christensen.
Shut
No
up.
shit.
Yep, that's Anakin Skywalker himself.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Go back.
A baby.
Go back and look at it. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
If only his career had stayed there.
You know, you're fucked up. First of all, you know,
Everybody's
one of the
getting
most
mad now.
heartwarming videos. One of the most heartwarming videos I've ever seen is just like Hayden Christensen getting like huge rounds of applause from people at like Comic-Con now that he's doing like the newer Star Wars stuff. And I feel so bad because I feel like and I brought this up many times, and I feel like I have to bring it. I'm a Hayden Christensen defender, okay? He got a bad stick. He got a bad shtick because George Lucas did not get said no to, and he was just not prepared for the density of the bullshit that he was going to have to say, the lack of emotion in the script. He just wasn't a well-seasoned enough actor to like make up for the fact that the script and George are crazy.
Okay, I will sign off on that a little bit, because if you've ever seen a movie called Shattered Glass, it's like a journalism movie that Hayden Christensen was in, I think right before or maybe right after the Star Wars prequels, and he's quite good in it. Yeah. That's a really solid movie.
I
think my only thing is just that how mean fans can be, especially with something like Star Wars.
Oh yeah, Star Wars fans should go.
They
should get dragged to hell.
Yeah, like I just don't think that it's right to make somebody feel like you're the worst fucking person in the world and that you ruined a franchise for existing. That's fucked up.
I think my problem and the problem I've always had with Hayden Christensen is he kind of has like Paul Walker energy to me, where he might be like the whitest dude in movies, and he has the whitest name. His name is Hayden Christensen, and just that there makes me annoyed at him.
Wait, I need to look something.
I don't think you can get whiter than that.
I need to look something up because this.
He
my
is
God,
the most Caucasian.
Okay, do you want to know what makes him more fucking Caucasian? I kind of suspected this, and I just had it confirmed because I looked it up. Okay. He's Canadian.
What's going on?
He's fucking Canadian.
Oh,
he's Canadian because this movie shot in Canada. So I kind of, as I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, he's probably.
That is the whitest boy we know.
Okay. Pivoting back to the movie, though, I do love...
We don't want to do another 5 on Hayden Christensen?
I can, and I will.
Hate sand. Gets everywhere.
Oh, my God. Fuck, I lost my train of thought. The painting in the hotel. The hotel. I love the setting of the hotel. I love all the little bits that are done in the hotel. I love the old woman. I love her little side story that she has her husband literally like handcuffed to her ankle. I love she's like a little... Of course I would. I love that she's like a monster and you can see her hacking into him.
Did you see those big old tentacles?
Big old tentacles giving big phallic energy. But what I really loved about the hotel, one of the women in my cast, she's like newly divorced and she's been on Hinge and she hasn't dated since she was like 17, and she got an unsolicited dick pic for the first time this last week.
Interesting segue.
And she was just like, why do they think we want that? And I was like, no one knows. No one can find the answer to that one. But I do love the painting in the hotel. It's great.
That was an odd segue. That was a random segue. That was interesting. Tentacles. Wait, why did men send dick pics? So the painting.
I would like to.
What do you think it's like in my brain, guys?
I would like to shout out that actress, Frances Bay, Canadian character actress, who has been in another film that we've covered on this podcast in a small role, Wild at Heart. Small.
Think of what else I've
small
seen her
role.
in.
She played a character called Madam. She's worked with David Lynch a few times. She was apparently in The Karate Kid and Happy Gilmore. So, great career. Shouts out, Frances Bay.
You know who's in this? You know who's in this that fucking threw me when rewatching this?
Charlton Heston?
That's another interesting casting choice I want to talk about.
Arachnophobia. That's where I know her from.
Wilhelm von Homburg.
Yes.
Who is a German boxer who terrified me as a kid in fucking Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, he plays Vigo the Carpathian.
Yeah, which always terrifies me. I know this might seem ridiculous to our listeners, but I have always maintained that Ghostbusters 2 has some legitimate creepy.
Oh, he scared the fucking shit out of me as a kid.
He's terrifying.
I will say I revisited.
And seeing him play a normal dude doesn't work.
Okay, yeah,
because
100% agree with you here.
I keep waiting for his head to just like split open and like tentacles to come out because he's fucking Wilhelm von Homburg.
Johnny!
Look at pictures
Johnny
of him.
boy!
I'm looking at pictures of him as like a boxer. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I feel like
Jesus.
this movie's kind of like the quilt of horror. It's a patchwork quilt of horror because, like, I'm getting like Children of Corn vibes. I'm getting like you know, like there's just like all like little bits and pieces of things where I'm like, oh, this kind of feels like, oh, this is from a Twilight Zone episode, or this feels like it's from this Stephen King story, or this does feel kind of like a John Carpenter, you know, section, and. That's why I think it's like a patchwork quilt of horror. Like, I don't know. There's just like so many things in it where I'm just like, they don't feel John Carpenter, like, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
I also thought of Dracula because of the, you know, the part where like he's, what's his name?
Sutter. We talk about Sutter Kane, or we talk about Renfield?
Renfield, when Renfield's in like the straight jacket, it kind of reminds me of this. So there's like so many things where I'm just like, oh, technically I guess like Dracula came later, so maybe
well, the story came first.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, there's just so many things where I'm just like, oh, you like kind of sprinkle a little this, sprinkle a little that.
I agree. I do think this feels like of a piece and feels very much like a John Carpenter film, because I feel like the thing that one of the defining things about John Carpenter as a filmmaker to me is that he is a fucking pessimist. He thinks we are fucked. He thinks humanity is doomed. Obviously, The Thing, Prince of Darkness, and In the Mouth of Madness deal with that directly. But like that sort of like, man, this whole world is like trying to fuck over the little guy attitude. Like it's in They Live.
Yeah.
Even a movie.
I was just gonna say
even a movie like Big Trouble in Little China ends with a fuck you. Like
the line in this movie where the guy comes to investigate in the beginning of the movie, he comes to visit Sam Neill's character, and he's in that padded cell, and he's been using crayon to draw a bunch of stuff. Is he going mad, or is he doing this to convince the people that he is mad, therefore to keep him in there because he knows the world is going to fall to shambles?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, they're asking you in here. God, things must really be going to shit out there, huh? And that sentence itself, I feel like I have heard muttered in one form or iteration or another in most John Carpenter movies. And, like, especially They Live and Prince of Darkness. Like, there's always someone going like, it's all going to shit out there.
Yeah. It's all going to hell in a handbasket. You know what makes me think that, like, I would, like, really enjoy, like, how, like, angry old man crotchety John Carpenter is? So I was getting ready yesterday, and in the middle of getting ready, my nephew was, like, on the couch, the 23-year-old, and then all of a sudden, I just hear this Carpenter's song start to play, like, one of the sad ones, and I just, like, pop my head around the corner, and I go, hey, bro, are you okay? And he's like, I'm in my feels right now. And I was like, okay, for sure. And when Sam Neill gets brought into his little cell, they're literally playing, we've only just begun to live. And he just goes, no, not the Carpenters. And that, it just, I don't know why, but there was some sort of moment where I was like, it's very funny that I had this moment today with my nephew, and then I see the beginning of this movie where there's a complaint about the Carpenters. I love the Carpenters. But it makes me think I would really like John Carpenter because I enjoyed that sense of humor.
Can I just say that speaking of music,
Thank you.
something that I love about John Carpenter is honestly, I have asked myself this a few times. Is like, is he a better film director or is he a better music composer? Because he does.
He's probably my favorite director, and I think that's an entirely fair question to ask. His music is so good.
I would argue that his music, especially listeners, listen to his lost themes.
Oh my God.
He doesn't make movies anymore, but he continues to make music. Go on to Spotify or YouTube or whatever and type in John Carpenter lost themes. He has 3 different albums. I think a 4th one now. And the music is fantastic. I would argue that his skills as a film composer is more consistent than his work as a film director. Because it's consistently great.
See, okay,
and we can debate that.
Here's the thing. I don't know that I agree with that because I don't know if there's been a director that has had as great of an unbroken run as John Carpenter from Dark Star, which I have grown to like a lot more, to They Live. Now, this movie comes after fucking Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which is one of the 2 that I have not seen and have not heard good things about. But his run from Dark Star to They Live is pretty fucking unrivaled. There's like 11 movies there, and I think all of them are good. That's really impressive to me.
I mean, yeah, no, that's impressive. I'm just saying that I think as a whole, his. I mean, again, I'm really just trying to compliment him as a film composer. And here, it's no different. Like it. I don't know if the music that he composes, which the main theme you only get in the very beginning and at the very end, fits it that well. But having said that, it's a fucking banger. Like, this sounds like Thursday Night Football theme music to me. And it fucking goes hard. And I really enjoy it. Like, I could imagine watching a sports highlight reel to that.
Apparently he wanted Metallica to do the music for this movie.
And he didn't get it, and he made his own fucking Metallica, and that shit's like some hard metal, and I like it. It's
another thing that I just love about John Carpenter as a guy is like how aggressively unpretentious he is. Because when you ask him about like, oh, why do you compose your films? In multiple different interviews, I have seen him say, well, I'm cheap and I know what the director wants. Like, and he clearly loves like composing music. Cause yeah, Mick, you're right. Like even when his films dipped in quality, his music never did. And like it's something he loves doing. He's still touring with his son, but like you ask him about, oh, why did you start doing this? He was like, well, I couldn't afford a real composer, and the synth was cheap and still allowed me to have a big sound. And it's like, admit that you're smart. Like, admit that you're an artistic person.
And to further prove my point, the main documented time that he didn't do his own music, the only guy that was up to the task was Ennio Morricone.
And it still sounds like a John
Carpenter
Carpenter score.
Perhaps one of the greatest. It still sounds like John Carpenter, but also perhaps the only guy you could get is perhaps one of the best film composers of all time to pick up the baton, which I think speaks to his ability as a musician. So it's fascinating to me. Like he's so good. I love the theme that he made for this movie.
Alexis,
wow.
I have a question for you.
Shoot.
Did you at any point when watching this movie get a little stoned?
Did I?
Yeah. I feel like you're the only one of us who still smokes weed, and the only reason I'm asking is because John Carpenter is like a huge stoner.
First of all, let me tell you, I don't smoke weed anymore, and I haven't smoked weed at all since I started rehearsals for this show. I only eat gummies, okay?
There we go.
Because we are
There it
protecting
is,
our
there it is.
pipes. We are protecting our pipes, and I will admit that I partook in a gummy before
There
I
it is.
watched the first third of this movie. And that's probably actually why I laughed so hard when he said, no, not the Carpenters. That shit was hella funny. I was like, yeah, John, I
Wait,
hear
Alexis,
you.
Why do you say before the first third? What happened after the first third?
The first third happened, and then I paused it, and I promptly fell asleep
Okay.
last night.
I'm not.
Right.
I didn't actually fall asleep while watching the movie, but I paused it, and then I was so tired. And the neighbors had finally stopped fucking partying. There was so much Mexican music all night after I got home. There was even like a fucking mariachi band playing Baby Shark at one point.
You're brave.
I thought it was very funny. It was very fun. They only did it briefly, I think, because it was a kid's birthday or something, you know.
You're braver than the Marines for dealing with that.
Yeah, I was
Well,
gonna say.
I'm glad someone partook in a little bit of weed while watching this, because I feel like
You know what I should get high and watch?
What?
They Live.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah.
They Live
Right?
is, I think,
I've never seen.
I think on my personal John Carpenter, like, ranked list, They Live is, I think, number 3. I think it's right ahead of this movie. Because I think, for me, the undisputed John Carpenter masterpieces are The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China, and They Live. And then In the Mouth of Madness and Halloween are right thereafter. Mick, I'm a little jealous that you've seen fewer John Carpenter movies than me, simply because you have more good ones to look forward to.
Well, I tried watching The Fog.
It's
one
on my
time,
list this year.
and I turned it off. I think it wasn't. It was because I was like pretty tired, and I was like, this movie ain't cooking enough for me to warrant like trying to stay awake through this.
Yeah, The Fog I like, but is lower on the list for me. Like, have you seen Christine? Christine
Yes.
fucking rips. I really like Christine.
That's a fun
I also
movie.
think it's funny that he has that little dig at Stephen King in this movie, where he's like, "Oh yes, you can forget Stephen King. Kane outsells them all," and it's like I think they were friends at this time, so I enjoy that.
I will say something that I like about this movie that I think is very much in line with They Live is it is quite obvious that the driving force behind the evil that is Sutter Kane is big business. The publishing house that again they keep talking about, like, the millions of dollars that they've made selling these books, that is now, it is documented, like, creating mass hysteria. It's very much, I mean, this took place, I think, after the Satanic Panic in the mid-90s. This was made in the
probably
mid-94,
during.
which I think was after that. It has a lot of those elements in there, but you have this corporation that wants to exploit this as much as they can, and they talk about how we've already sold the movie rights to this, and you know it's wait till you see the movie and stuff
who
like
directs
this. And
the
it's
movie?
Who does direct
You
the
didn't
movie?
see on the poster?
No, I don't think I
It's
didn't
John
see
Carpenter.
that. Oh, yeah, of course. There you go. Yeah, a lot of meta shit happening here, but yeah, like that. That's why I think Charleston Heston, who plays that character, and he's older in this, but he's still, I think he's kind of perfect casting in that, because to me he just represents that sort of, that cold-hearted, I mean, the cold dead hands brand that he has in real life, or had, I should say. I enjoy that aspect of this film, that pretty much all of this is just put forward by corporate greed.
Yeah.
And That's very much on brand for John Carpenter. I mean, he made one of the best corporate greed films of all time.
Nobody hates Reagan's America, which, we still fucking live in, more than John Carpenter.
John Carpenter, yeah.
The other person involved with this movie that I would like to shout out is someone who has gone on to become a massive fucking Hollywood power player. And that is the writer, Michael DeLuca. Michael DeLuca, I believe, only was credited as a screenwriter for 2 films. This and Nightmare on Elm Street 6, Freddy's Dead. Widely considered to be the worst of those original Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think he was the head of New Line Cinema when they were kind of the small, scrappy indie horror studio that produced this movie and grew to prominence by being the studio that distributed Nightmare on Elm Street. He is now the president of the movie division of Warner Brothers.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. And at some point just decided that he wanted to write a, homage to the works of H.P. Lovecraft and cosmic horror and brought John Carpenter on to direct it. Very, very interesting guy. I have many, many problems with the corporate decision-making of fucking David Zaslav, head of Warner Discovery. But putting Mike DeLuca in charge of the film division of Warner Brothers is like one of the few decisions he's made where I'm like, okay, well, we have at least put someone who clearly has some fucking film taste in charge of the film division because, he's a creative person.
I was going to say that since this is spooky season, let's talk about the spooky in terms of how frightening this film is. To me, I think my favorite part of the movie is when the 2 characters, Sam Neill and the assistant, excuse me, I'm going to pull up their names. Linda and John Trent. Linda Stiles and John Trent.
Linda Stiles.
When they are in the car and they're road tripping and they are, well, you could argue beginning to trip because there's some weird shit happening outside their car. That sequence, I think, is my favorite.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the Halloween Town kid. When that kid is like cycling and you just see him in the distance and you pass him and he's just cycling with no lights on at all and you see him fade in the red light of the brake lights just away, and then suddenly you see him as an old like crone, like just this old hag kind of thing, and he just keeps going and going, and you just keep seeing it repeatedly until suddenly she just crashes into him. All of that is super effective and really fucking weird, and I like that. I like that type of horror where that, and I know this term is thrown around a lot, but that feels kind of Lynchian in that sense, where it's just very nightmarish and completely illogical. And then when she looks down and the car is just floating through the black void, and suddenly they're above this lightning storm, and then she launches through and it's like they're entering a portal. All of that is super effective. I quite like that. I think I think that might be my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I think that's a really good section. Like I said before, just love everything to do with the hotel. But I'm trying to think here. I do like that one character who keeps telling him that he needs to leave before it gets you too, and then ends up like committing suicide. And then he's just like, he says something like, "Oh, I think was it John Trent or whatever his name is." is trying to get him to like not kill himself, and then he says, "I can't. I'm written this way."
Yeah, no, that is a good part. This reminds me of like a horror version of Stranger Than Fiction, where you just have these characters that are just at the mercy of
an
author.
Bit. Yeah, like that one part where she's like in the car with him and then she just starts to try to like kiss him and she's like, "It's not me, it's Kane's writing. He's making me do this." And I'm just
How about when she...
Well, that's not fun.
Let's talk about a little bit though the crab walk
That's
that
not
she
what you wanna
does
hear.
outside of the car where her head just like turns upside down.
I
That's
fucking
pretty
love
good.
the crab walk. It rules.
That shit was wild. Because at first I think John Trent is just like not really buying that like there's anything really that wrong with her until all of a sudden you see her head at the bottom of like the car door and you're like, why is that down there? And then she just starts to crab walk out of the car and she's doing like a, what is it, like what was that one character? Is it the Exorcist or something that comes down the stairs? But her head is like upside down from where it's supposed to be. And it's like, it's so ghoulish. And then I think she flips over and then flips over her head as well. Ugh. That might be actually my favorite. That's the spookiest part of the movie for me personally. But I do love all the asylum stuff. I love a good asylum scene. I don't know what that says about me, but I love anything that takes place in an asylum. Yeah. Yeah. Also, I'm trying to think here. I think I went to a haunted house one time, and there was one section of the haunted house that was like just like an asylum. Very spooky. Big fan. Great setting. I should really write a story about an asylum. That sounds like...
Yeah, I love the setup for this movie of like, oh, I'm going to this asylum and I'm going to hear this lunatic's twisted tale. Like that feels very like classic, very like you were saying earlier, like Dracula to me. It's one of my favorite Carpenter openings. I find this movie really unique. I think horror quilt is a good way to put it. It throws a...
Yeah, because all the kids is like so Children of the Corn. Like
the
where
movie
they're
that
just, like,
the movie that he made the year
children.
after this was Village of the Damned, which is not great, but is a creepy kid movie. So it was clearly on the brain. I also just want to give a shout out to Jurgen Prochnow, who plays Sutter Kane
from Das Boot.
I think it's such a fun performance.
Me neither.
I've never seen Das Boot.
I'm strangely kind of find his character hot.
I get it.
I don't know. Maybe it's just like the I know everything and there's nothing you can do to stop this, but go ahead and try, kind of attitude about everything that I'm just like, okay.
Or is it
someone who's in charge and they know it?
I was going to say, or is it perhaps
a writer,
the
a
ultimate
best-selling author?
Writer?
Ooh.
He is he's got a fucking self-insert.
He's a self-insert.
It's
self-insert fan fiction. John Trent is literally the self-insert fan fiction character.
I just love Sutter Kane's delivery. He has a few deliveries that I fucking love. One is, "Behold the new Bible," and then when he right before he tears himself out of the book, he goes, "I'm going to join my new publishers now." It's like he really is giving a Dracula type energy.
I mean,
that I quite
lair,
enjoy.
His evil lair is.
I do too.
His lair fucking rocks.
Definitely some vampiric vibe.
Yeah. The goopy door. That big goopy door. I was like, what's behind the door? It's shaking, but it's also
breathing
oozing.
a little bit.
Yeah, I think, all of that is, I think for me what works better in this movie is that sort of nightmarish, illogical, surreal horror aspects. Again, the kid biking through the night, her head just kind of like twisting around and crab walking. And then also something that I find very effective in this, which is just very strange, is when I think it's Sutter Kane says, like, did I mention that my favorite color is blue? And then it cuts to him on the bus, and suddenly everything has a blue filter, and everything in the bus is just blue. And that's not like in no way is that a standard horror movie convention, but that's just so creepy.
And maybe
that scene is why Sam Neill's a fucking scream king.
Scream.
Because he drops a great horror movie scream that is very funny. I really enjoy it.
I do think, actually, now that you guys have brought it up, that the most effective thing for me in this film is the nightmare dream aspect to it, where it's like you're in one setting, one place, and it's kind of reminds me of like Coraline, you know, when she's trying to walk past the boundaries of the house, but she just comes back to the beginning, because there's that one section where Sam Neill's trying to drive away from the mob, but every time he drives far enough away, he ends up right back where he began. And it is like a very like dream sequence where it's like you just keep going in a loop, you know?
Yeah. It's kind of like the aspects.
I really enjoyed that.
A sort of indescribable purgatory that he kind of seems to be stuck in, which is why when you see the tentacle monsters, the very kind of like standard H.P. Lovecraft beings, that doesn't like the design is pretty cool and it looks like it's done well, but that doesn't hit me the way the surrealist aspects of everything else hits me.
I agree. I think I think that the most effective like horror sequence of this movie is pretty undeniably the bike scene. But I think that in some ways, like the monsters appearing is kind of like, oh, what do you expect from John Carpenter making this kind of movie? What do you expect from this kind of story? You've got to see the slippery things. What do they look like? But I think that both the script and John Carpenter understand what's troubling about cosmic horror is not the slippery things. What's troubling about cosmic horror is that you fundamentally did not understand the nature of reality and how small you are in it. And the note that this movie ends on hammers that home. It's John Trent just having to sit and watch himself be fucking ignorant of his minuscule and powerless place in the universe. So I think that this is a movie that understands cosmic horror.
Totally.
Even if it is funny.
Yeah. I do also enjoy the fact that, like, even though he's watching the movie, there's such a through line. He's constantly saying, like, this is reality, this is reality, this is what's real, you know? And then you get to the end and he's watching, like, rewatching himself, basically. And obviously it's very surreal. Nothing's in chronological order. Everything's kind of jumping around. And I don't know, I guess maybe he is finally just having a good laugh about the fact that nothing's real.
It's also just like one of the great horror movie looks. Some year I feel like I gotta do that as a Halloween costume. John Trent at the bookends of this movie in his like hospital scrubs with the crosses all over him.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Well, do we have any final thoughts on In the Mouth of Madness? It's like many a John Carpenter film, short, effective, and to the point. So let's be effective and to the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love how this movie is just like a third establishing who Sutter Kane is and how things are starting to go insane, a third in the town, and a third as the world goes to shit. Like there's no fat on it, in my opinion.
I guess I'll start my closing thoughts. Really solid, spooky movie. Obviously, I'm not in love with this film, but there are plenty of things to appreciate. And again, if you're a fan of horror, if you're a fan of John Carpenter, then you have to absolutely put this on your watch list. And I do like how, I think it was earlier in the film, they're talking about the nature of sanity and insanity. And it's sort of like, where does power lie? Power lies where people think it lies. Insanity is only defined by those that are in the majority. So once the people that are insane are in the majority, then the insanity becomes the sanity, and they define what saneness is. And I think that is kind of a perfect statement that they're making about how the world is going tits up. The world is fucked up because the people that, you think about this movie as the world is going to fall apart because these indescribable, horrific beings from this cosmic realm is just going to kind of take over the world. But I think, the way I read the movie in some ways is the people that are insane, the people that are absolutely untethered from any moral good are the ones that are in the majority in the world that we live in, which is why it's so fucked. And I think John Carpenter would agree with that.
Well said. Alexis?
Well, that was like way more together than anything I'm going to say, so I don't even know if I should say anything at all. Overall, really liked it. I'm glad that I can add another film to the Sam Neill zeitgeist. Sam Neill, MVP of this podcast, apparently.
Listen, okay, I'm going to say directly to my father, who I know is listening, it's going to be a while before we end up at The Omen 3, The Final Conflict, just so you know. A Sam Neill movie that is fine, but it's not mandatory viewing.
I'm preempting a note that we're going to get about unfolding on the podcast.
He loves The Omen 3, The Final Conflict, which, you could, I guess, add to the Sam Neill Scream King pantheon, even though he does play the villain in that. But, we're probably not going to cover it anytime soon.
Well, we will be covering a Sam Neill movie soon.
Well, I guess...
I don't know. We'll see. Boat Month is coming around the corner, so you're going to see Sam Neill again.
Yeah, fuck, we are going to see Sam Neill again.
He is the MVP of the podcast, baby. He's in Bicentennial, man.
Yeah, he really is.
Fuck?
I mean...
Oh, that's sad.
He is also in... Memoirs of an Invisible Man, which I guess is, the good thing to come out of that movie, which soured John Carpenter.
Do you guys
on
remember
studio
Daybreakers?
filmmaking.
That terrible Ethan Hawke vampire movie?
No.
Yes, I didn't see it,
Sam
but
Neill,
I do
baby.
remember it.
No.
Mick, if you mention
Sam Neill,
an
baby.
extremely mid movie from the late 2000s or early 2010s, I either saw it at the Dollar Theater with past and future guest Jake Sabat, or I saw a trailer for it at the Dollar Theater with past and future guest Jake Sabat, and Daybreakers falls into the second category. All right, well...
Fortunately for this podcast, every other early movie I've seen myself. So.
Between the three of us, we've probably seen every mid as fuck.
Yeah, we've got that covered,
late
I think.
aughts, early 2000s. Well, the last thing I will say about this movie is, Mick, to your comment about the line that Stiles says about how sane and insane is a matter of perspective, and you would find yourself alone if reality shared Kane's point of view. I feel like that is the line that really shows that this movie understands cosmic horror, because he was a piece of shit racist who named his cat the N-word. H.P. Lovecraft, seriously. Yeah, that's a fact about H.P. Lovecraft. Fuck? That's the thing. You didn't know this? I'm looking at Mick's face of shock. This is not an obscure fact. This is fairly known at this point. H.P. Lovecraft was a huge piece of shit, but he's been dead for a long time, so, But his comment about his perspective on cosmic horror is that all his tales are based on the fundamental premise that common human laws and interests and emotions have no validity or significance in the vast cosmos at large. And I think that this movie understands that and brings that energy. I love it. I love John Carpenter. He's the fucking man. He's the coolest. And if he ever decides to, put down his joint, get off his couch, stop playing NBA 2K and direct another movie, I'll be excited to see it. But if that's what he wants to do with the rest of his life, then fucking God bless him, because he's made many of my favorite films. It feels like we've barely been here.
It was a short month.
But we're already... I mean, it's a short month compared to fucking U2's months. Although next year, I finally get a fucking 5-movie month. But I gotta wait a calendar year. We are at our final episode of spooky season. And the theme for this year, as I've previously stated, is Zach's horror Mount Rushmore. These are the cream of the crop in terms of horror filmmakers who have made many movies that I love. We've talked about David Cronenberg. We've talked about Sam Raimi. We've talked about probably my number one guy, John Carpenter. Shut the fuck up. For our final episode,
I'm having a craving.
It's like what if I just decided to what if I decided to pick a fucking different movie because you just said the Ed Helms thing? What if I just decided to say fuck you, stop doing the Ed Helms thing? I can do it. I can do it. You both been on bad behavior this episode. You've both been on bad behavior. You've been creating problems. But I too love this movie, and we are going to be discussing Mr. fucking Wes Craven, a filmmaker in 3 years. We've never covered him, but we're getting to him now. And with John Carpenter and with Sam Raimi, two guys we'd covered before, I kind of wanted to pick some B-side movies, some of their maybe less seen or less discussed works. But god damn it, this is the Film Majors. We've talked about this movie a lot, and sometimes you just gotta pick the movie that you love the fucking most. We are finally going to be doing a full episode on 1996's Scream.
Hell yeah.
It's a banger. It's a heater. It's the fucking best. We all love it. This is maybe the movie we all agree on the most. I
think so.
Like, can you think of a movie? So. I mean, listen, you're saying the same thing at the same time. Like, can you think of a movie that we all like as much as we all like Scream? I can't.
Yeah, usually there's at least two of us that love it, and then a third person that likes it or just dislikes it. There might be another movie that all three of us love, maybe like Jaws or something, but I don't think none of us are as passionate about it as we are with Scream.
Not to this degree. We did a Scream photo shoot.
Yeah, it's true.
I have a poster. We did a photo shoot. I have a poster of Matthew Lillard's quote from Scream in my living room.
The living room?
I mean, this was This was the movie that, like, I grew up watching over and over
Well,
and over
we will
again.
get to all of that next week. If you listen to this show and you haven't seen
Yeah,
Scream,
by
who
the way,
the fuck are
if-
you? Genuinely, what listener of
Really?
ours
Let me just
hasn't
say,
watched Scream?
If you have not seen Scream, great Drew
I
Barrymore
need to know,
film.
actually.
Great Drew Barrymore movie.
You know,
Incredible.
why not watch
real good.
Scream
Yeah.
and then go see Smile 2 in the movie theater where Drew Barrymore apparently plays herself? Well, if you want to watch Scream and you're not
Interesting.
sensible, or if you're Mick and you're not in LA, you can watch it on Max, or you can watch it on our shelf, or you can rent it. And if you want to find us, the Film Majors, you can find us at Film Majors Pod on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok. Go to our Instagram, look at our Scream photo shoot. It was pretty fucking good. I was showing this to my coworkers this week, and they were impressed. And you can also subscribe to us on
so
YouTube.
Clean shaven in that photo shoot. It's so weird.
It's really chilling. It's really chilling.
comment,
However,
subscribe.
I do have to give us credit. We did fucking completely nail the facial expressions
of
of
murderers.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's
Okay,
actually
spoilers.
kind of worrisome how good you guys nailed those facial expressions in. Like it makes me think that I
Surprised,
should be
Alexis. All right. Well, we will get to all of that next week. Thank you for tuning in. I'm real excited.